Hey, welcome back to the Reloved Guitars workshop. This is Sam, freshly back from a quick stay in hospital. Very pleasant gallbladder infection, yeah, unexpected really, as these things are. It took me 6 days out, so everything had to be on hold for 6 days. So for those of you who were waiting for guitars and are waiting for guitars, slightly delayed by that, my apologies, but I guess it's one of those things, isn't it? Your health comes first in the end, and there's nothing you can do if you're laid up in hospital. But anyway, painful experience, but thanks to the fantastic NHS as always for their incredible care. And when it comes to the NHS, I'm a glass half full kind of person, because I think they're just fantastic, even with some of the, I don't know, ragged edges or whatever. Fantastic service and care. So right now I'm feeling pretty much better than I was before, and going in for a keyhole surgery operation in a week or two's time, so that should be an in and out job. I'm looking for a guitar strap. Here's one. Yeah, so thankfully that will remove my gallbladder and I won't have any such troubles in future again. Anyway, so enough of that. Suffice to say, that was 6 days of rest and recuperation. But here we are, moving forward in time, and we have this out of tune, but Ibanez Artcore semi-acoustic electric thing on a very short strap, so I look like I'm, I don't know, from a jazz band of the 50s or something. But this is Colin's guitar. Kev, Colin's brother, asked me to buy this one, and the plan is to set it up next and ship it off to Kenya. And that's going to be a first for Reloved Guitars, taking a guitar all the way to Kenya. Slightly dead strings on this, but by and large it's not a bad playing guitar already. Nice action on it, relatively nice action. Came badly packaged, so first thing that happened was this switch was snapped off, sheared off, because of the bad packaging, inadequate packaging, and thankfully nothing else worse than that. Oh, and lost one of these covers on the back of the tuner. Now I happen to have a switch there, and thankfully it was close enough to the hole to make it less than an absolute nightmare, because on the semi-acoustic, when you do any of the electrics down here, you pretty much have to pull everything out through the F-hole, which can be very, very, well, not very challenging, but more challenging than doing a regular solid body electric. But I was able to do this one right next to there, so it fitted in fine. So that's fixed and secure. And Claire managed miraculously to find this. It was in the bag, the little insubstantial gig bag that this was in, and nothing else. It wasn't even in any bubble wrap. It just came with a fabric gig bag with no padding at all, with a plastic bag on the outside and some tape. But Claire managed to find the little dot that presumably fell out. So I'm going to attempt to put that back in. It's quite difficult, but I'm going to slightly heat up this with hot air, hairdryer or something, and see if it expands enough to accept this little bit back in. Meantime, I'm going to put it somewhere where it's going to stay safe until we get to that point. So back on track now. Let's get this thing going. Could do with the cleanup. It's a good looking guitar. It plays fairly well. I'm going to do the setup the way I've come to do it recently, which is to do the fret leveling with the strings on and the guitar under playing compression, so that it simulates playing conditions. And to do that, we'll use the tunable fret leveling file, which is AKA the truss rod, which is a brilliant way of doing it. And yeah, gonna do the leveling with that in position. Then we'll take everything off, clean everything off, give it a good old dust up, and then put it back together again with new strings, and then tweak the setup to a final playing condition. And then the challenge is going to be to really package this well for a trip to Nairobi. At the moment it's looking like the costs for this were going to be around the £120 mark, and including a £5 insurance premium to cover it up to the value of £250, which I have to say personally I never have any real faith in, but you know, who knows. Anyway, the things to observe on this guitar is, for my liking, is it's got quite nice hardware. If you can see that, it's got a sort of heat discoloured rainbow sort of coloured chrome on there, which is quite nice looking, and it has also some, I'm just being very careful with it, has some very pretty inlays, the mother of pearl inlays or abalone or whatever it is, and dark hardware everywhere else. So it's a pretty mean and moody looking thing, and it's a nice guitar. I think Colin's got a good deal here for this, apart from the problems that came with the crap wrapping. Having said that, all credit to Parcelforce as ever. The fact that they got this guitar to me in one piece. There's a tiny little chip on the top of the headstock here, but I don't think that's to do with the transportation. But the fact that they got this here in one piece with such rubbish packaging is really a testament to the fact that Parcelforce seem to make it their business to ensure your packages arrive safe. That's my experience. I've received some really lousy guitars, or lousily wrapped guitars, and they've still been intact. One, in fact, was in a box where the end, wooden box somebody had made, a really crappy wooden box, and the end had fallen off, and the guitar could have just been picked up and dumped down onto the ground at any time. But you know, they noticed that, they picked it up the right way up and brought it into the house in good condition. So yeah, hats off to Parcelforce. I've had no problems at all so far. So this is the Artcore Ibanez Artcore series guitar. It's a model number AGS83B-TKF-12-01, made in China. And I'm going to do a couple of. Am I going to measure what the settings are? I probably will, just out of interest. And we'll go and set it back up the sort of standardly good way that I like it to be set up. I'm going to jiggle this camera around a bit if I can. Just get a different view on things. So just to look at the, that's not bad, 1.25 on the bass string and 1 on the top E. So 1.5 mils, 1.5 on the low E and 1 on the high. And again, it's not critical at this stage, but just a quick look will tell me that's not bad. That's about a 0.4 of a millimetre or 0.5 of a millimetre gap. We could go down a little tiny bit on that, but we wouldn't want to go too much lower than that. So, Ibanez Artcore. Don't know is it a Les Paul copy or is it? Yeah, I suppose it's a Les Paul shape. Anyway, right, we'll get going with this. So I'm going to go through the boring process of marking up the frets with marker pen by just pushing the strings to one side and so on. It's a bit dreary, so I'll cut and come back when I've done that. Okay, so the frets are now marked with marker tape, masking tape, no marker pen, and Fred Morris is insisting on getting involved in the action right now. So he's a bit craving attention, and he's also in danger of pushing things over. I've had to stop him knocking over a few containers already. Alright, when are you going to have had enough cuddles, Morris? You may be a mascot, my friend, but you can't interrupt the work all day long. Meow. Why don't you just settle down there? Well, don't push the pens off. He has this thing where he barges things with his nose. It's very endearing, but can be quite destructive. You want to go down, right? Put your feet on there. Yeah, onto there. You can do it. Put your feet onto there. Come on, down. Down. Who are you watching now? Come on. Down. Go on here, nice and spongy on there. There, you can just make a nest on there. Stay there. Sleep on there. Go on. And maybe he'll like the bubble wrap enough to snooze on it. Oh, I've lost the plug. Gone off again. Morris, settle down there. We'll go somewhere else for a bit. Thank you. Bloody hell. Right, let's go back where we were. Right, frets have a marker pen on them. Okay, and I'm going to pick a sort of midway, well, a sort of balanced position to raise this neck off. Okay, so the game here, if we're going to level the frets in playing mode or playing condition, I've got the neck under tension, I've got the action set how I want it. In fact, 1.5 and 1 is a pretty good action, so I'm not really going to mess with that right now. I'll experiment later and see if I can lower it a tiny bit more, but it's a tweak at this end is going to make it perfect. But so we get the guitar into playing configuration, and the other thing we want while we're there is to make sure there's a bit of relief in the neck, which actually there isn't in this guitar. So there's no bend in this neck at all, which potentially is probably, you need a little bit. There are different opinions depending on who you are and where you're coming from about how much that relief would need to be. But I'm conscious that this one doesn't have any at all. It's completely flat at the moment. And some people seem to really like that, or you see some sellers who will refer to the neck specifically as being flat as a pancake or whatever. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because technically you only need as much relief in your neck as is required for it to play well, or to play adequately well. So if there isn't any relief at all, if the neck is perfectly straight but you don't have any issue at all with the way it plays, then in a sense there's not really any need to adjust it. In principle it should have a bit of relief to allow the strings to rotate, and that becomes, I suppose, an issue. The lower you go with your action, the more critical that will be. But we'll see in practice what happens with this. I'm just taking the truss rod cover off anyway, so I have access to said truss rod. Being me and not wanting things to choke out when we have a nice low action, I want to put a little bit of relief into this neck, so I'm going to, if I can get the Allen key in the right way, I'm going to go a little bit anti-clockwise with this adjuster. Let's see what happens to the neck. I think to tune it against in here. Oh, we do actually. No. Better get a tone off the amp. Just make sure that we're under approximately the right tension. Quick look down there, see if we've got any little fraction, hardly any. Perhaps a little bit more this side. Yeah, I've got a bit this side now. That'll be enough. If you want to check what the actual clearance is, you can hold down your string on the first fret and the last fret, and then just gauge what the gap is at the midpoint. And this is a kind of rule of thumb I'm doing there, really roughly. There's hardly any relief in that at all. Add a tiny bit more in. So counterclockwise means I'm slackening off the truss rod and allowing the strings to bend the neck more. This is quite stiff, so this doesn't, I'm not sure if this is really doing anything at all. Oh yeah, I can see now there's some relief in it. Maybe it's a two-way one, in fact. Don't want to do any bendings because I need the pen still on there. So just another quick look at the relief now, and okay, I can see it now. That's okay. And we'll work it with that relief in the neck as is. Strings under playing tension. So what are we going to do? I'm going to show you on the board first of all, in case all this is brand new to you. But let's assume it isn't. I'm going to make a bit of space in here. So hold on 1 second. Some permanently marked up things here that could do with coming off. And are they going to come off? Just very easily, I have to say. So I think I need thinners, not this stuff. So let's change substances. Thinners, where are you? Sorry for the delay. Normal service. Maybe resume shortly. Pretty hard work even with thinners, blimey. Right, so we've got that space. I know it's 1.5 and 1. I'll trust myself to remember that. Okay. So yeah, so often what happens is you'll have a neck, and then you'll have a fret and a fret, and then you'll have a high fret and then a fret. And this fret here, these frets are the same, but this one's high, okay? And what it means is if you fret that note there, sometimes because of the amount of height this string, this fret is, it'll cause this note to choke out. So if I do it as if we were bending, stretching, pressing the strings down, let's make an imaginary nut at that end, sorry, bridge, and a nut at that end. So let's say we press the string down to the top of this fret here, and we come away from that badly to the bridge down there, and you can see that because this one's high, it's effectively fretting the string there and not there. So you press the string down, or you press it down here to fret on that fret, and in fact this one's so high that instead of playing that note it plays that note, and that's the problem with high frets. So what we aim to do is level them. The thing is, interestingly enough, the principle can apply when there's a low fret. So you might get normal fret, ridiculously low fret, normal fret. And what happens is, let's say you've got your bridge up here, you fret down to this one here, very badly drawn, and the thing comes off there. It doesn't come off like that at all. It comes off here to meet with the bridge, and in doing so it runs straight off the top of that next fret. So even though you're fretting there, because this fret is so much lower than that fret, even though that fret is pretty much the same height as that one, it causes this one to appear high, or act as if it's high, because it's high relative to that one, and so it chokes the note. When you fret here, instead of playing that note, it plays that one. So on a guitar neck, the action is usually set to accommodate the unevenness, or lack of evenness, of relative evenness of the frets. Because the process of putting a fret in into wood is a bit like that. You get the fret and you push it in with some glue, and it sits there, and there's some glue maybe in there upsides, and that one might go in nicely, and for all I know this one might have a bit of gunge in the bottom, and it might sit out like that. Okay, and it might be just that tiny bit higher, and so you end up with relative unevenness of the frets, and basically it means that your action has to be set as high as it needs to be to avoid the highest problem. And that's why most budget guitars come to you with quite high action, and first thing you'll do is, as soon as you grab hold of the guitar and try and amend it or tweak it, you'll find yourself encountering buzzing and so on, because the underlying frets are relatively uneven. But you can see that this guitar will play without us doing this, but it will play that little bit cleaner and allow us to reduce the action even more if we want to by leveling the frets. So it's just a way of giving us a level playing field. So what we've done is we've put the neck under pressure with the strings, and we've dialed in some relief curvature into the neck, which we want to allow the strings to rotate at the centre of their length. And now I'm going to use this tunable device. So it's a flat levelling beam. I'll come back to the board in a minute. So in the past, when I started doing fret levelling, and if you've seen it, a lot of people will show you this way on YouTube, what I would get is, let's imagine there's your Les Paul neck with a curve in it. It sort of thickens up there, right? There's your neck, and it's got an inherent curve in it. What often people will do is they'll take a neck off a guitar, and then to level it, fret level it, they will use a truss rod to level the fingerboard as much as possible, right? So you level the fingerboard, and then you can take a file, which will be a very flat sanding beam of some sort, and just go and going backwards and forwards on the frets. You will ensure that relative to each other they are relatively even in relation to each other. That's one way of doing it. The difficulty, or the problem with this is it works really well, and all of my first, I don't know, 70 or 75 guitars were done that way. What it doesn't quite do, because this is relaxed, because it's just the strings are off and it's in relaxed mode, what it isn't is under compression this way, which is what, or compression inwards and upwards, which is what the strings do. So the question would come to you immediately then, well, let's say our playing neck is like that, very crudely put, right? That's really bad, but let's say our neck is like that, with nut and the frets. I can't pay you attention just now, Morris. And the question would be, well, that's a curve, how do you level frets? If you went in with a straight edge, or straight, you can see straight away that that would sort of grind out. It would grind out the edges and miss the middle ones. So what we have here is a truss rod with some sandpaper on the bottom, and we can tune that truss rod with a few turns to mimic the curves on the neck while it is under tension. I suppose I should draw the strings on to be precise, right? There we are. So we're going to do the same fret leveling activity, but with the neck slightly bowed or relieved, and under whatever other effects compression does to the position of these frets, so that if we can achieve levelness now, or relative levelness now, then we know that once we've taken the strings off, put new ones back on, done all the other things we're going to do, we know that this guitar will be the in playing conditions, the frets will be as relatively level as they possibly can be, and that's what we're aiming for. So how do we do it? Well, I'm going to get this, get these little feet. These come from another kit that I bought and subsequently didn't carry on using for a number of boring and unpleasant reasons I won't go into. But anyway, but you could find yourself 3 other things of a similar nature. They just have to be the same, basically the same construction, like little triangles or pyramids or whatever. You can place exactly the same size, and you just need to be able to place them at 3 different places. And what we then do is we take this truss rod and we lay it across all 3 of them. I don't know how well you can see that. We're laying it across all 3, and I can just tell by laying it down and touching it like this that it's only contacting this end and this end, not the middle. So it means the bar, the truss rod, is currently too flat and it's not reflecting the curve in the neck. So I can lift it off very gently, turn it by finger touch at the end a little bit, which will start to curve the whatever it's called, the truss rod. And now it's already contacting the middle first and then settling down onto the far right. So I'm going to take it back a little tiny bit, and I'm going to go until the point where, when I move it side to side, both of these 2 pyramids are moving in the same amount, and that means I will then have copied the curvature. So if I look down the truss rod, I can see that there's a degree of curvature. I have to be careful to preserve that. Then what I do is, for this purpose, it's not absolutely ideal. You might find that what you really want to do would be to keep this under the exact tension and perhaps hold it aside with your thumb, but what I tend to do is just slack it off a little bit so I can waltz it off to the side and hook it off the peg here. It's still under relative tension, it's not a huge amount of difference, and then I'm going to start very gently, place down my truss rod, and I'm just going to gently let it rub backwards and forwards, and the marker pen on the top of the frets there will be removed as and when the sandpaper is contacting it. So if I lift away now and just put it down, straight away I can see that it's taking some off that one, none off all of those, some off that one, that one, that one, that one. So there's an indication here that these 4 here are higher than all the rest, which is entirely possible. So I'm going to gauge how much higher they are. I'm going to keep going a little bit longer, just supporting this lightly. I don't want to put too much pressure on here. I just want to let it sit there under its own weight. It is, after all, made of steel, so it's got its own fair bit of weight in it. And I'm going to just see which of the frets it contacts this time round. Let's have a look. So it's still working predominantly on these few here. So and these 2 at the end. So it's telling us there's a sort of, well, there's a bridge between these and these, but not these. So there's you can see there's a number of different profiles going on here. If at any time you don't feel confident in the bow of the truss rod that you're using, or your tool, of course you couldn't do this with a flat tool, so take your truss rod, reset it to nothing again. Notice I'm doing it this time, I'm measuring it at the very edge, and I'll just turn this until it's making contact with the one in the middle. That's almost too much. Slight adjustment, there we are again, we're right. So I've just measured it again just to be absolutely confident and sure it's right, and then lay it back on here. So I'm working on that area which goes under the first fret, and I'm just gently going from side to side. Now the secret here is, once I've just touched all the frets, then I'd probably want to stop So I don't want to keep going beyond that, because once I've touched all the frets lightly, then I know that they're all at the same height. Sometimes I'll even stop before that, because the difference between the highest and the lowest is so great that I might not want to persevere. So what's nice about this, doing it in situ, is you can hoist the string back on. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these breaks, by the way, they're so old, but hoist it back on and just test out the notes. Everything needs to play cleanly. So long as it does, we've got it nicely leveled. So I'm just going to do a little bit more till I make sure the surface is just glanced over by this tool. What you'll find at this point, if there's a fret or two that's staying resolutely black, i.e. it's covered still with the marker pen, that will tell you your lowest fret in the whole series, okay, because it's the lowest fret that's going to stay untouched by the sandpaper. And remember I said before, a low fret will also give you effectively a high relative reading with the frets around it. So on this guitar there's one or two, and they're all getting a tiny bit now, a bit touched by the sandpaper, so I think that's pretty much done. And I'll put this one back on, hook it back over, tune it up, and then we'll slack off the B string and hoist it over the side, just far enough, keep it under as much tension as we can, but we want it out of the way so we can carry on with the fret leveling. And so we'll just move now onto the track taken by the B string and gently work it up and down. I'm taking care to avoid the very end, the adjuster end, because what I really want to do is just, I don't want to change the curvature anymore, I just want it to work as it is. And it's following a similar pattern. The same high frets are still showing up as high, which is good, confirms what we sort of knew. Hard to use this without going a bit too far over the edge. Sometimes you're getting a clonking as you hit the frets, but it's not the end of the world if you do. Okay, so I can see there's a low fret developing or showing up in this one, and it's this one here. But we'll see. We don't have to get it absolutely perfect, we just need to improve the level on what it was. We shouldn't have too much trouble doing that. Again, place it back in, tune it. Okay. So it's slow, but it's slow but sure. We'll just hoik this one out of the way and move along. Okay, so what I'll do at this point is I'll save you from the pain of watching all of this, and we'll suddenly fast forward to the end where we've got all the frets leveled out and we're ready to go on to the next stage. Okay, so that's done. Radio's on in the background, ignore that, but I'm going to now remove these strings. These are all now levelled, so time to get rid of these strings. Not really going to adjust anything else other than I'm going to give everything clean up. I'm going to take care of that one tuner if I can and make sure this is hopeless. Right, that's not going to work. Yeah. Going to take all these off, clean it all up, get that one tuner with the little disc back in place, hopefully, and see where we go. But first of all, obviously, the next stage of this process is going to be reprofiling these frets and then polishing them out again to a new playing condition, because currently they're a little bit flattened off, so the reprofiling process means we've got to reshape them so that they're round and nice to play, but we don't want to lower them any further, so you have to be very careful. So there's the bridge, nice little bridge, I like that. Whole set of strings coming off. I might just reuse these straight away on another guitar for another reason. This is not my cup of tea over nearly. Right, so what am I going to do with this? I'm going to brush off the filings, and then I'm going to take off this as well. Give myself a chance to give those a clean, the bridge and tailpiece. Take these components out as well, because we'll put them all back in from scratch. Off to one side. In fact, we could give it a quick once over now. Get rid of some of the grime on it. Sort of part way towards it. Quick once over on the neck. And we'll get rid of some of the, or all of the marker pen, I should say. Don't want that on there anymore. It's done its job. I'm going to put some more on for a different purpose, but I'm just trying to mainly get anything that's gone down the side of the frets off at this point in time. And going in the little gaps around the sides of the pickups and whatnot, get all the dust out. Get rid of some of the muck on the headstock as well. It's very dusty at that end. There's a couple of tiny chips on here that it's a grey finish, mostly a grey finish, so they may be, I'll put a little light colour, a bit of black, a light wash of black on there, but it's not really a colour I can emulate. I'll have a look and see if anything matches it. But apart from that, it's in very good overall condition. I think the marks are there from before the packaging, so I don't think they're related to that. Get in there and clean the dust out of that little corner. Okay, that's just got some of the grime. So, got to do a couple of things now. First one is takes a bit of time, but I'm going to cover up the whole of this neck in masking tape because I'm going to preserve it. And to do this, I'll cut in a minute so you don't have to go through this, but to do it with masking tape and to do it properly, I'm going to cut lots of different lengths of tape. You don't want to see that because that's going to be fairly dreary. But it's thorough, that's the point about this. We're going to make sure that everything is covered up so that there's no chance of the fingerboard getting damaged by any of the work we do next. So you can see you can only go so far with full-size tape strips. You're going to have to then cut finer ones. I've got a boring production line system for doing this, but it's effective and it works. So. So I tag these around the back so it should be easier to release. Radio 4 here. Some program about Andy Warhol and Truman Capote, I think. Right, so I'm going to put this off to one side and fetch up well, I'm hanging it actually. Now I'm going to fetch up the cutting board and cut myself the pieces I need. Right, out the way safely. And my cutting board. And I'll come back when the guitar is fully covered up, ready to go. Okay, for some reason I wasn't recording, so I've re-profiled the frets and now I'm polishing out the marks made left by the sanding or the sandpaper from the levelling and from the re-profiling. So the frets have been levelled, they've been reshaped so that the flat spot's gone, and now it's time to polish them out. It's a nice, smooth, playable finish. Alright. Keep looking at the sun thinking, oh, I'm going to get 5 minutes on the deck, but it's bloody cold out there. Right, now I move on to the lighter stuff, 1200, and this starts to polish it a little bit. Quite a lot of dust flying around at this point. Two more bits of this and then onto the micro mesh, and then on the home straight after that. One more. Now onto the micro mesh papers. This is the set down from 1800 grit down to 12,000, and we're just coming off 1200 on the other paper, so we don't need to spend too long in here. Okay, away we go. It's the dreary bit of the job, this. I'm going to get on and finish it as soon as possible now. Can't really rush it, otherwise you won't get a good planing surface out of the frets. You've got to stick with it all the way through this sequence. Oh no, 3002. Second time this is conked out. I'm afraid I don't know what we've managed to capture now. All I can say is guitar is really strung, and I'm kind of ready to, next step will be to intonate it and to test it, and we'll play it a bit and see how it's sounding and feeling. At the moment it's got a set of 10 strings on it. Plays lovely. Like often with a bloody pneumatic bridge, there's something down here rattling and I hate it. I can't tell you what it is, but it's a kind without the retaining spring, so it has a bit of, occasionally you get a bit of zzz down here, which is dead annoying. Okay, sorry about the loss of video. It seems to be working now all of a sudden, and I've got you staring straight into the sunlight. Bloody hell, first rules of camera work. Okay, so come back in a minute, give the camera a chance to recover. I'll come back and do the intonation when the sun has stopped shining straight into your eye. And we'll also check out the levels of these pickups and see if they're in the right place. Pneumatic bridges, could we do without them? Right, enough for now. Thank you for working for the moment, camera. Okay, let's see if we can get this, keep this video going for a while. Just time to do the nut slots on this guitar. I'm just going to really just double check and make sure that they are the kind of gap that we like. So I'm going to look at a 0.30 gap on here and see what we've got. It's less than that, so that's interesting. It's uneven, that's for sure. Right, so there's less than that on that end. Let's see if we got 2.20 gap. Okay, so there's a 0.2 and 0.2 on this bass string here. What I'm also noticing about this guitar is that there's a lot of wood either side of the strings. The spread of the strings is quite narrow. That could be altered by a change of nut, which isn't something I sort of planned into the cost here, but it's worth a quick look at. Not really sure. Let's have a think. This is graphite. Just have a look and see what the spacings look like on another nut. Well, they're also pretty much identical. Let's have a look at what it is on this Tusk version. Right, that's just fractionally wider. I would spread them a tiny bit wider. That's, again, it does add a fair bit of cost to it. Well, not a fair bit, but a bit more cost to it. I'm just looking at this 0.2 put this on a strap and see if this is already too low. Just want to assess this, but I'm not entirely sure whether this is right. Could be that the nut has already been cut too low here and we're getting a bit of buzz. I'm not sure. Down this end, it's the bloody pneumatic bridge that does that weird buzzing, and I can't identify exactly what it is, but it is most annoying. Can't do much about it. Let's just have a quick listen to this. Still annoying. It's annoying. It's annoying. I'm going to get around this. So this is way too low, this pickup for a start. So I need to adjust that upwards. It's hardly picking up anything. So let's just get ready to do that. But so yeah, neck pickup's miles away. Sounds nice. A huge difference in volume. Still going out of tune. Well, plays well, but it has that little slight kind of zing now and then. Well, okay, we've got quite a low action over the first fret here. It's actually in the stand-up position, it's probably more like 0.3 in real terms. Yeah, 0.3 in real money. Obviously it changes a little bit when you put it down on the bench because it's different. Neck's under gravity, so it changes. Let's see, let's have another close look at this. Let's let the gravity, let it flop with gravity first. So we've got 0.3 there. Support it right there, halfway down. 0.3 there. Okay, we'll go on 0.3. So let's put that tusk nut out of the way for a minute. 0.3. 26, 36, 46, 17, 10, 13. Right, so well, let's get going. Plastic, so not my favourite substance for cutting. So let's start with the 46. We're on a 10 set string, so we need to work with 46, and this needs to be only just slightly lower than where it is currently. Just okay, let's drop that one off. Right. Now I'm going to work outwards from the D. Quite a big gap there. Oh yeah, there is a big gap there. So they are definitely uneven in relation to each other. So we're working now with this D string. Take it slowly. You don't want to overcut it and mess things out, mess things up. I think this is this. I don't think it's bone. I think it looks like plastic. Okay, we are almost on the 0.3 there. tiniest fraction more. This will make the playing, the action at this end, very comfortable. Right, it's buzzing now on 0.3, so we're on the mark there. And we'll go to the next one. So measure it again, get the right thingy out. Again, you can see the gap. You can see where there's a gap between that and the feeler gauge. It's not huge, but it's enough to be working on. Interesting. Okay, that's buzzing off the other string. Don't worry, that's because it's slacked off the edge. Just a little bit more. Sometimes you hear things, you go chasing after the cause of them, and it turns out to be this string hanging off the edge that's doing it. Thank goodness. Okay, we're on the mark, and down to the last one, which I think we already did, in which case let's just, I'm going to drop these three off, put some stuff that we call graphite into these slots to lubricate that action. Yep. And finally, the E string. I'm just going to quickly tune. Just by ear, really. I'm going to slack off the top three here, get them out. I'm going to start with the G string and work outwards towards the E. And again, because this is a 10 set, I'm going to reuse the 13, the B string gauge twice. Just avoids me getting into a pinch situation with the E string. You can hear the bells ringing here. So Monday evening. What occasion Monday evening is. Okay, we're on the mark. nearly up tight. It's not the whole way tightened up, just enough to have it, make sure it sits right the way into the slot once you release it. And the bells have stopped. All rings quiet. Sometimes these things get slightly crimped or buckled, and then they only go in one way. Nearly there. Okay, stop there. And I'm going to reuse this same gauge for the E string. Again, not all the way up to tune just yet, just enough to put it under load. So it'll give me enough room or enough slack to pull it out of the slot and just move it out of the way. Nearly there. Close enough. Okay, I'm going to drop these. Oh, bloody hell! Drop these three off, and then put some graphite under there, and glue them back up. Okay. That's really light. Very light. That's very nice. Probably could even raise it a little bit, possibly. I don't know. Let's switch on the amp again if I can find the switch. Oh, it's the most stupid. Where is the switch? measuring thing. There it is. Right, we have got 1.25 and 1 down there. Might go up the tiniest fraction, tiniest widget. Detune it slightly. Okay, so let's get this intonated now. Still, it's got a bit of stretch still left in the strings. Try and iron that out before we intonate it. Doesn't help having the bells going off from your ears the whole time. What the hell? That really annoys me. Hear it? That one there. Screws that are loose. Bloody hell. If you find yourself in that position where this thing is rattling down here, it's these screws in this tunematic bridge, and it's really annoying. And the only thing you can do is just slightly tweak them, and I'm going to do that now in the intonation process, and it might just stiffen them up so that they don't rattle anymore. But it's bloody annoying, and I hate the tunematic bridge for that, to be honest. So, okay, so for the purpose of setting the intonation, you need your tuner, which I don't even know where I've put it. Did I bring it in here? Why did I bring it in here? I don't think I did. Yes, it's in my pocket. Interfering with everything. Oh dear. Shows what a week off being sick does for you, doesn't it? Right, I've actually invested in a different unit, a different tuner, but right now let's use this one. It's an app that I've used all the while. It works very well. So I'm going to strap the guitar on. You don't have to do this. You can tune it lying. You can set the intonation lying down. It doesn't. Some people get really hot and worked up about that, and like to kind of give you comments and tell you you're an idiot for doing it that way. Because don't you know that the gravity of the neck changes everything? Of course it does. But the gravity effect on the neck is that it flattens it and stretches the string out of tune, or makes it go sharp. And the point is, it doesn't change the overall length of the neck, so it doesn't affect the intonation, which is all about the length of the free playing string. So all that will happen is, if you do it lying down, you'll just have a slightly different tuned guitar, and then you can retune it to pitch when you hold it in the upright position. So it doesn't change the fundamentals, which is the length of the playing string. So I'm just raising this pickup a bit to balance out, first of all, balance out the front and back. It's nice. Still being out of tune. That'll line itself out eventually. So look, what we've got to do the intonation, we need a slotted head screwdriver, a fairly fine one. It can either be, it needs to be a long one, so it's either this one or that one. And we're going to adjust each individual saddle here, and the purpose of this is to make sure that every string on this guitar is the right length for this neck, and we do it by monitoring the tuning. So I tend to use the harmonic on the 12th fret, tune to that. When I've got there, then fret the 12th string, the 12th fret. That's spot on. So that one's flat, which means the string is too long, which means we need to bring the bridge this way towards the nut, and to do that we will use we'll do this, I think it's going to be clockwise, screw this in clockwise to drag the saddle towards us. Now it's tightening up, which is good, starting to pull it towards us. Before it was loose in there, which was part of what was causing the zinging. So this is, intonating is a good way of tightening up those screws as well. There you go, spot on. Slightly sharp. So that means the G string, we want to go counterclockwise and push the saddle a little bit away from us, make the string longer. It has the effect of raising the pitch of the note as well as we push back the saddle. We need to retune on the harmonic. Still a little bit sharp, so again we'll go back to the G, we'll go counterclockwise, and that will push away from us the saddle. Should do anyway. It's a masterpiece of design, the tunematic bridge, because you can't get to the screws because of the strings. Still fractionally sharp, so we need to lengthen it, and he's pushing it away from us counterclockwise. Go. Pretty much on. Pretty much on. That stops some of that rattling as well, which is nice. It's quite a nice tone, that. Oh, do you know what this is? I wish I could solve these things from vibrating. It's so annoying. They need something to stop them buzzing in their slots. It's almost as if each one has to be kind of, oh, there you go, look, it's sort of loose and it's, no wonder that buzzes. I'm just going to turn them until they probably engage with something, but I don't want to really change out the intonation on it. Yeah, like I said, horrible design fault on the tunematic bridge as far as I'm concerned. personally, I would be tempted to put something in there, like a little piece of rubber or anything to stop it vibrating. Okay, so there we have it, Kev. Sorry it took so long in some parts, but to get it right. That's going to be the bane, could be the bane of your life. It's the bane of mine. It's the individual, where you hear that buzzing. It's not showing up now quite the same. There'll be times where you hear that buzzing and you'll know, well, take my word for it, it's those little screws down in there, and it's, I can't see anything you can do about it other than to put some grease on them or something like that to stop them vibrating. Theoretically you could turn them a kind of fraction of a turn until they bite against part of the bridge saddle, but I've done that and they either come loose again straight away or they just, it's not enough pressure to stop them spinning or rattling. There you go. Damn it. That's the only downside about this guitar, but it's not limited to this Ibanez. It's that is a common problem with any guitar that has a tune-o-matic bridge, and some worse than others, which is why I don't really like the tune-o-matic bridge. Anyway, thank you for sticking it out for this. Sorry it was somewhat incomplete because of the failing of the video camera. So you'll see that we've got the little cap back on that thing there. It's not perfectly in place, I have to say. It doesn't go in perfectly. It's got a little bit of glue holding it in place, but it's better than the hole that was there. We've got the really smooth light action down here. We've got some new 10 strings on here, and we've got the frets leveled. And nice low action with some neck relief in there as well. So next stage will be to play it a little bit more, just make sure I'm completely happy with how it is, and then I'm going to start getting it into the boxed situation, getting it ready for its courier trip out to Kenya. And the kind of first experiment in sending it out on such a long distance travel. I've done a few all around Britain, and I've done a couple to Sweden. But so far I've not done anywhere to the African continent, so that'll be a definite first. I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that he gets there. I've been surprised so far with all the courier choices that I've made, even though it's a bit of a, it feels a bit of a, feels like a Russian roulette or something, but it isn't. It's worked out pretty well each time, so I worry unduly probably. Okay, so I hope Colin enjoys this. I'll work out the where the money is with it, and we'll tally up in a short while. But there we go, Ibanez Artcore in a sort of brown grey, which is a really moody sort of colour with nice, almost like heat treated pickups. And I'm very impressed with the tuners. They are really positive and straightforward, and they work really well. So ready to go.